everyone. This is Gail Birks, and I am your host for the Readiness Factor. We meet with you once a month on the second Thursday of every month at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to talk about what's on your mind from the perspective of leaders in business and entrepreneurship. And today I am so excited to have joined with us our guest, table conversation partner, Miss Helen Reynolds. Helen, let me tell you a little bit about Helen before I bring her to the screen. She is an extraordinary individual. I had the pleasure of meeting her a few months ago. And she is a servant leader, an author, a psychotherapist. Ms. Reynolds she brings the passion of empowering individuals to unlock their potential and lead fulfilling lives. Over the past 7 years in this field, Helen has dedicated her career to serving others with compassion and empathy. And she is armed, folks, with a master's degree in professional counseling, and she possesses a deep understanding of human behavior. I have a long list of references for her. She has authored the book called Bandages of Bondage, Lord Unravel Me. And she's going to hopefully share with us some thoughts and cues for us on that literary art that she has prepared. She is gifted in the word. I can tell you that from personal experience. I could talk about her, but you know what? We've only got a short amount of time together. What I would like to do at this moment is bring to the screen and to the virtual chat room, Miss Helen Reynolds. Helen.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Welcome.
Yes.
You know, this topic of mental health and wellness, which is what we're going to talk about today, folks. You know, the whole premise of this is that one size really does not fit all. It doesn't. When it comes to understanding mental health, you know, Helen, talk to us a little bit about, you know, what does that mean? Because most people, when you hear that mental health, everybody gets quiet. The room gets quiet. It becomes the 800-pound gorilla in the room. How do we unleash that and make it a gift of conversation to talk about for healing? How can we do that?
Well, thank you again, Gail, for having me on this platform. And interesting enough, I'll use the acronym HOW, right? HOW. And this is how we're gonna tackle that question. How? H meaning be honest, right? O is open-mindedness, and W is willingness. We have to utilize those components. That's how we're gonna tackle this elephant in the room, this horrific thing that, you know, silences people, the faces go blank when it's asked. That's how. First, we have to be honest. And that honesty is individualized. One size does not fit all. So my truth does not look like your truth, nor does your truth look like mine. So as individuals, being honest with ourselves first. Because if I'm honest with me, then I have no problem being honest with you. Open-minded, meaning that I don't have all the answers, and I'm willing to actively listen to others as they share out their truth. And the willingness is the work part, right? You got to be willing to do the work, meaning you have to implement what you've gotten in the H and the W and the O. So that's how we start off. Honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness.
Honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. And does that have to be internalized first? Or is there how does that begin? You know, how do we start that journey?
You started with being comfortable enough in your truth, being unapologetically you, right? Meaning that I'm comfortable in my discomforts, right? Meaning that it's not a secret. Maybe I'm struggling with something. Maybe I've had some life experiences that I don't want to necessarily talk about, but I'm honest enough to say, you know what? This happened. I experienced that. So just admitting and acknowledging that there is something that occurred.
Okay. Okay. You know, we're already starting to get comments into the chat room for you, but I want to back up a little bit because I want our audience to learn, you know, I guess I'm excited, so I jumped right in. But how did you get into this field and why? Because this takes a very special person to manage and assist others in managing their mental health. Why you? And how did you get into it?
Why me? Because as I often say, I got to do the same thing you got to do. I have to do the same thing that anybody else has to do. I am not exempt, but I am included, right? And so I too have my own personal life experiences with dealing with mental health and or traumatic situation or adverse childhood experiences. So that put me in the inclusion in the whole scenario. So it starts with me.
Okay.
I don't just know these things, but I have life experiences of understanding via enduring and traveling through experiences in my life. So I have a better understanding. So not only do I know, but I understand what I know. So then I'm able to make a healthier decision for myself. And that very thing that I just explained and shared with you all, anybody can adapt that practice, right? Anybody can be honest in that space and say, you know what? Everything I know, I don't do, right? But when I have a better and a deeper understanding of what I know, then I do typically make healthier choices and decisions for myself. So I made a decision for myself. I will say this, I didn't choose this, it chose me.
Okay.
I'll say it that way.
Okay. Okay. And sometimes it just seems that there is a fit. You know, that whole universe or that energy that you cast out can draw people in or will draw people in. You're also a poet as well, yes?
I am.
How have you applied that in your counseling and a lot of those other creative tools that you own? How do they come into your practice of counseling and wellness journeys and pick people on?
Well, I'll say for me and my life experiences is that, and it's kind of an excerpt from my book. Poetry is like the air I breathe, right? It's what saved my life. It's what got me through some tough times in my own life. I write, you know, some people may understand it as journaling or, you know, keeping a diary, but writing was an outlet for me earlier on in my life.
Okay. 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 Yeah, I've got a couple comments coming in from LinkedIn. Being comfortable versus being uncomfortable. How do we have to decide to choose one when we're dealing with mental health and we're going into this healing journey? I mean, talk a little bit more about discovering what comfort versus uncomfortable means. How do we define that? How do we manage it?
Okay. So I would say it's defined on an individual basis, right? Because I can't define what's comfortable versus what's uncomfortable for you. So it's very individualized. But what I will say for me is that I'm transparent enough because I often say that transparency is my best look, right? So for me, even being on this type of platform, it's a discomfort for me, right?
Mhm.
Now, if there's no cameras or I'm not being spotlighted, I do what I do, and I'm very comfortable in that. But this is uncomfortable for me, but it's necessary, right? And in those discomfortable spaces, and while I'm uncomfortable, it's how I grow and how I learn and how I become a better version of myself. So it's implementation of it. It's embracing it, right? So I'm uncomfortable in this setting, but maybe people are like, well, you don't appear to be uncomfortable. You seem such like a natural. Well, I'm transparent enough to share with you. This is not a very comfortable position for me. But I am learning, right? Meaning I have not mastered, but I'm learning how to embrace just being, right? And whatever that looks like in moments.
And I like that when you say whatever it looks like in moments, because that sometimes is how we have to take things moment to moment. And you know, I don't think any of us are exempt from that. And thank you for that transparency, because I think a lot of that is the gateway to healing, and that's recognizing what the transparency truly looks like for us to be able to step into that new realm of life.
Yeah.
And so thank you for doing that. Oftentimes we, you know, when you look at this, I'm trying to phrase this in a way that I don't step on anybody's toes, but more often than not, you find on a clinical side, people learn a certain way of managing mental health, and it becomes a one size fit all. But you've got age, you've got generational, cultural aspects, culture, gender, lifestyle. How do you manage that when it comes to crafting a prescription for healing? Because one size really doesn't fit all.
Yeah.
What can you share in terms of your approach to something like that? Because we've got younger and younger people now showing critical signs of mental health. And you know, we haven't even begun to talk about what's going on in workplaces these days. So you know, let's I know I kind of gave you three topics. Let's kind of delve into that first, because that's important. That's important for our audience to hear.
Yes, I would definitely agree with you. It is very important, in my opinion and in my experience. And so I am a holistic person. I believe in treating the whole person, mind, body, and spirit, because that's the substance of our creation in which we exist as human beings. So I take a more approach of diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? And so that ties into one size doesn't fit all, right? So I keep in mind that open-mindedness of diversity, right? We don't all look the same. We don't have all the same experiences. You know, it's diverse.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
equity is the fairness, right? For all. Each individual deserves to be treated as such, right? So I can't carry into your space my projections onto you,
Right.
or
Right.
nor my beliefs, right?
Mm-hmm.
I, as a clinician, have to allow myself to be open-minded enough to to be in a space of learning. So I
Okay.
don't have all the answers and I don't know everything, but I'm allowing myself to enter your space to learn so that I can better understand you and what you share with me. And now I know. So diversity, equity, and inclusion is detrimental for that to occur, especially in the times that we're living in now.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I'm an executive coach, and you know, I don't delve into the aspects of mental health that you do. But when I'm working with someone, I work with them on those, and I see a word that I'm going to take out of the chat box, of performance excellence. And if there is something that requires us to go deeper, and I just had this conversation the other day with a new client, then we bring in the professionals like yourself. But it always means that I've got to keep my eyes open for those things that potentially, which is why that I've been brought in. And how do you educate leaders in business and industry, or coach them, prepare them to keep both eyes open, be transparent, but be bold when you see something, say something, take actions discreetly that may need to be taken to make sure that everybody stays well, stays healthy, stays safe. You know, mental health can appear in different ways.
Yes.
Comment on that for me, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So while you were speaking, the thought that came to me was assertive communication, right? We know that at times there's passive communication, and there's aggressive, or there's a blend, passive, aggressive. Assertive communication is important, but active listening is too. And listening is just not listening to what's audibly being said out of a person's mouth. It's listening to the nonverbals, the body language, feeling out, learning how to have intimacy in spaces with people so that you connect. But while doing that, listening to understand versus listening to respond. All of those things are key factors in any type of human interactions where you're trying to understand a person so that you can make a healthier decision for yourself.
Yeah, because I'm a business, or I'm running my own company, and I've got a team of people that I'm working with, whether they're employees, whether they're contractors. My job is just making sure they get the job done, but my job is also to ensure that they stay safe, they stay well, because sometimes a lot of what we do can, how can I say, it can be infectious. And people become empathetic and start taking on the issues, and you can't do that. So it's really, really important for us to help leaders understand that when you see an issue, you have to own the solution. More that when it comes to managing through and getting to that healing process of mental health and that wellness.
So if I could just add this, I'm thinking that in a setting as such that you given as the example, the thing that came to my mind is boundaries, right? Boundaries help you navigate life, right? It keeps you safe, it protects yourself, but it also protects others that interact with you. But boundaries are key, right? And sometimes I think that we forget oftentimes that boundaries is a very broad term, right? And there's areas that boundaries have. And so there's work-life boundaries, there's boundaries in conversation, there's boundaries when it comes to possessions and things of that nature. So boundaries are key in that example that you gave, because it helps you break through barriers, right? It helps you de-escalate situations, right? But also being very respectful, right, of another person's thoughts, beliefs, and or feelings and emotions, right? And what I've found in practice, right, in professional and personal life is I oftentimes use myself as an example, right? And for example, I'll use children, right? So if you're a parent or if you're someone raising children, and as they begin to grow and they hit that, adolescent, teenage age, and it's like,
Oh, Lord.
oh my goodness, who is this person that's living in my house, right? And then, so for me, right, because I use myself as an example, I think back, Helen, remember yourself at that age? And I kind of sit in that for a moment and remind myself of the things that I did and how I functioned and conducted myself, right? So I use myself as an example to remind myself to bring it down to a more humanistic basis, right? These are human behaviors. This is not anything that's abnormal in a sense, because when I use myself as the example, I remember of some things that I did, right? Of the way my brain functioned at that age. So I would employ others to use themselves as examples in those situations where you're finding it difficult to understand the individual.
So right there, don't
I'm
think
sorry.
I lost you.
Yep, you go ahead.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah. So in other words, turning up that heat on that empathy button just a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm sitting here and you're like, and you had me doing some flashbacks there, and it's like, okay, look into the inner child. And a lot of us, there's this term now called the triggers. The triggers that get us going or light us up or what have you. Just what are those good, bad, and otherwise kinds of triggers that move us or make us freeze? How do we manage it? Because you're seeing a lot more of that now. And again, especially with a lot of the younger people. And I see someone saying that button needs to be more readily available in people. In business and industry, everybody's looking at the bottom line. One of the things that we've seen over the last 10, 15 years is that with all the layoffs, all the reorganizations and so forth, businesses going out of business, people who this is all they've done, this is who they have become, this is who they are. And when that's gone, the void is huge. It's huge. And there's a mental void and healing of reconnection. In your practice, how are you working, or do you work with people and helping them to reconnect? Because that's like a rubber band that's snapped because it's lost all its elasticity. And it's like, but I still need you. So people truly having now to understand there is a new me in there. The world is not ending. And that becomes a different type of mental health issue, and a different type of healing. How are you encountering that, if you're encountering that? But I'm seeing a lot of that out here in business now, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it is just on the traditional side.
Yeah. So I'm definitely seeing that a lot in practice. What I'm finding though is that it's not just in practice, it's not just in business, it's as individuals, it's a part of living in life and being a human being, right? So there are stages and phases and there's levels and degrees, right, to all of us. And each day we're becoming a lot of times we're striving to be a better version of ourselves, right? And so we never know what that looks like as life progresses, right? So I'm teaching people mindset, right? It's really in our thinking and the thoughts that we think about ourselves and how we see ourselves, right? So teaching them to watch the words that they use, right? Because sometimes the loudest voice is not of someone else, but it's the things that we tell ourselves, right? So what are we telling ourselves at different stages and phases of our lives, right? Learning how to be open enough to shift your mindset, right? Because the 21-year-old version of Helen, listen, she don't know this, whatever age I am now, version of me right now, right? And so learning to, I'm sorry.
22.
Yes, 22. Learning to adjust, right? So it's
Right.
a mindset shift, but it's also the words that we speak, right? Words have power, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so learning to be caution in the words that what we're saying to ourselves. So for an example, instead of saying, oh my God, how many times have I can raise my hand. Oh, I don't want to start over, you know. So another healthier way to think about it, number one, before you actually say it, right?
Yes.
Is to say, you know, wow, this is an opportunity for a new beginning, right? Even just that shift in wording, right? Changes how I feel about facing this change, this different. So it's really working on individuals with a mindset and thinking and doing more inventory also, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think we do inventory oftentimes enough of ourselves. Like, what are we thinking? What do we believe? You know,
Mm-hmm.
things like that.
A little bit more to me about that inventory. And I'll tell you why I'm asking. It's because,
Okay.
lately there's this cliche term where I'm hearing a lot of, and I made the mistake of using it the other day, and my husband was like, don't you ever let me hear that come out of your mouth again. Imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me, it made me sit back and I was like, how did you let that get in your head?
Mm-hmm.
And it was a form of mental distraction until I was told, don't you ever let that get it, come out of your mouth again or say your like that. Talk a little bit more about that because there are different faces of mental health that are coming out now and going back through to that checklist because we are extraordinary beings walking this earth.
Yeah.
And how do we lose that focus and fall into that quote imposter syndrome, which I just hear too much of now these days? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I believe before we may have come into the wisdom and the knowledge and understanding of the term itself, that it was still in existence, right? We just was able to correlate like what we were experiencing. Oh, this is actually a thing, right? And to me, if I would unravel that, it comes down to self-esteem and how I feel about myself and insecurities, right? And things of that nature to address someone, I think in the chats asked about, is there a checklist? Absolutely. I often create my own checklist, right? I'm just that type of person. It's individualized, right? Because we're talking about one size doesn't fit all. And sometimes we're looking for, okay, I'm going to read this book because it gives me the steps A through Z, how to, it's individualized. It's personalized to the individual. Because what your checklist may look like may not work for me, right? Because we're having different human experiences, right? But there is a checklist that's relevant. So I often use for myself and what I give to patients that I service is, I open up the option for them to be a part of creating their checklist, but helping them to think around areas that when you're trying to search yourself over, right, kind of scan yourself as to the different areas where there may be some baggage, if I can say it that way, right? There may be some waste, some stuff that's stored up, right? So I look at the emotional part of me, right? Then I look at the mental, like the thinking, right? Then I look at the beliefs, the physical part of me, like, because sometimes we carry stuff in our physical, there's this great book, The Body Keeps the Score. It's an awesome book, right? And it kind of touches on what I'm kind of, going over briefly. So there's a checklist. I would never say, oh, well, you have to use this, personalize it, and you develop a checklist by doing inventory and being honest, like, what's really going on, Helen? What have I been experiencing? What are some areas that I'm struggling in, right? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No. I said, you got me going, girl. We got church going on.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. I want to make sure I'm tuning in and paying attention to if there was something that you needed to get out in that space. I wanted to give you time and opportunity to do that.
No. Go ahead, please.
So the checklist is personalized. So it goes back to that honesty piece, like really sitting within yourself, with yourself, like, what am I struggling with? Or what's been kind of triggering me, going back to that, like, because a trigger is just something that touched something that was already prevalent in you.
Right.
It didn't come and bring something to you. It just woke something up that was already in your existence, in your being, right?
Right.
So that's,
right.
And having an awareness, I'll say also, right, to help you compile that list, right, is being aware and kind of really spending some time with yourself about what are my triggers, what gets me going, or what's been bothering me lately.
Yeah, I got it. You know what? We've been going back and forth. I've got some people sitting in the chat room with us,
Okay.
and I want to open up the mic for guests here to see if you'd like to join in on the conversation with us. Do you have any comments or questions for Helen while we have her here? Sometimes our guests can be shy. But what I'm hearing, tell us once again about that book that you have, The Bandage. Tell us about the bandage. What did we find in that book? What jewels can we pull from in that book, and where can we get it?
So the book Bandages of Bondage, Lord Unravel Me. Ooh, it's some yummy stuff in the book.
Okay.
Listen, you will probably, if you're being honest and using the tools that I've shared here today, you'd find yourself in the book, right? Through one of those poetic pieces. And when I say you'll find yourself, maybe an experience, maybe something that, you couldn't formulate into words, but it happened, it occurred, or maybe something that you experienced vicariously through someone else, right? You may find yourself in the book, giving you a voice, invoking in you that power and that authority to speak your truth unapologetically. The book is definitely is composed in such a way to invoke in you um the courage, right? And the support to write it out, right? To put what you've had as experiences into words and to tell your story unapologetically, right? Sometimes people feel as though in their life they've been muffled, that no one sees me, no one knows, no one understands me. Well, the bandages of bondage, Lord, unravel me, will definitely give you your footing. So I encourage you, you can find it out on Amazon. It's online. You can find it on Barnes and Noble. If you just go into Google and put the title of the book, Bandages of Bondage, Lord, Unravel Me, it is definitely something you want to put in your library.
Okay. How I got a couple questions here. And what are the positives of journaling?
It gives you a release, but in that release, you give a relief.
Okay.
It validates your voice, the voice that you're, the voice that's in your head.
Yes. Yeah.
That talk back voice, the rumination of the thoughts of the stories that are untold, that's been just lingering, it allows you to, it's very invigorating. It can be, for some. I encourage people to try it.
Yeah. 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 And that really answers that second question of how does this help my mental being? You share that beautifully.
Yeah,
and
it's definitely a distressor.
yeah. And your buddy Karen is on the call here today, and she said, how often should we do a checklist?
So your checklist is interchangeable, right? It's constantly evolving. It's not like over and over you do it. You make amendments, you make modifications, you make changes. As you alter, you grow, you understand, you alter, you change, you implement different things and try it out, and you say, you know what, this is not so much, and you make modifications to it. So it's an ongoing type of thing.
Yeah. I love this. And we've got the book in the room, folks. So you've got the title. You can find it on Amazon and Barnes and Noble.
Yeah.
Check it out, because I know I'm going to get my copy. I think that it is just an awesome thing. We have, ironically enough, worked through over 30 minutes of chat with you this afternoon. And what are some of the final tidbits that you can share with us that we can leave our audience with?
Can you repeat that? You broke up a little bit. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. What are some of the final tips that you can leave with our audience, going back to how, that they can take with us in terms of some of their mental healing? Knowing that one size doesn't fit all, as long as you use that how. Give us some of your last words of wisdom, Jules, if you don't mind.
I would say, everything that I share is what I use myself, right? So I'm not selling you something that I don't use, right? And so I would definitely say, give yourself permission. Give yourself permission to heal. Give yourself permission to say, you know what, I'm not okay. Give yourself permission. Validate you. Give yourself permission and love yourself enough to live. Yes, those would be my final words. Give yourself permission.
I love that, because I'll tell you, I love me some me. And if I have to step back from all the stuff that I'm doing, I will do so. Absolutely. And it is unapologetic. I'll give you a call when I'm ready. And don't stay gone too long. That's what I always tell people this way. Don't stay gone too long. Yeah. Because you've got to be present. You've got to learn how to stay present. I love this. And Miss Helen.
Yes.
I want to truly thank you for your time today. And folks, thank you for hanging out with us for 30 minutes plus a few extra minutes, because what we do with the Readiness Factor is we definitely work on moving the needle for leaders in business and industry, entrepreneurship, and everybody else in between. And Miss Helen, I've got you up on the screen here as far as your contact information. Yeah. You tell them out loud how they can reach you. I'm sure there are folks that would love to keep the conversation going with you.
Absolutely. So the email address is as it appears on the screen: Helen Reynolds, HelenReynolds 4942 You can reach me at 414-349-8558 or 414-522-7018. Thank you and be well.
Thank you. Everybody, Miss Helen, this is a topic that is evolving. And if we get folks reaching out to us that say they want you back, will you come?
Say that again. If you get folks reaching out, that what?
We get folks reaching out to us that say they want you back. They want to talk some more about this whole topic.
Absolutely.
Mental health and wellness. Will you come back and visit us at the
Absolutely. It would be an honor and a privilege to come back if that is the request. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes this month's, and this just happens to be Mental Health Month. So having you here, Miss Helen, is truly an extra special gift for us. We have lots coming up for you in the coming months. We've got some workshops in June, so please visit the website. And on June 9th, I believe it is, Steve, tell me if I got that right, we have a teaser for you for our up and coming special edition of Strategic Expeditions, learning how to strategically plan like a practitioner. Nice. So give us a shout, talk to us soon, and we thank you so much. We meet again on the second Thursday of every month, but check the website to make sure that we that you have an understanding of the topic that we're going to be sharing on at any given time. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to talking out loud with you real soon. Thank you so much, Miss Helen.
You're welcome, and thank you all, and thank everyone for joining us on today.
Take care, everybody.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.